Hello, 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 and welcome to another episode of Hear Their Voices. My name is Priscilla Ozodo Acevedo, and it's such a joy to be back here with you. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, this podcast is brought to you by ICON, the International Committee on Nigeria. And ICON is the International Committee on Nigeria, like I said, and we promote human dignity, the right to live, religious freedom, and the protection of the vulnerable from all forms of persecution in Nigeria. So it's a joy to be back here. Before I go on, I'd like you to do what we do every single week. Pull out your phone. For those of you who are subscribed to us on Facebook, on YouTube, you know that you will receive a notification very soon that says, oh, there it is. I Can Help is live. And so click on that. We're about to share it with friends. We never want to watch this alone, y'all. We don't want to watch this alone. So click that share button when you go on and just share and let other people watch it with you. How can we do this? I'm on YouTube. Okay, let's go to Facebook. Facebook is easier for me. I like us to do this because we have determined that we want to get more and more people involved in the conversation. So every week we just go to our broadcast and hit the share buttons. You can say something like "Watch with me" or "Join in the conversation," and there you go. More than you yourself is what. Someone other than you is watching with you. So thank you for joining us again. My name is Priscilla Ozodo Acevedo. In this new season of Icon Podcast, we are creating opportunities for our guests and for you to speak up on behalf of Nigerians and on behalf of those who are going through the persecution and terrorism in Nigeria. Last week, we focused our conversation on the lives and the families of those who have been abducted by terrorists and militants in Nigeria with our guest, Dr. Gloria Puldu, and she is the director of the Leah Foundation. If you missed that episode, y'all, if you missed last week's episode, please go back on our Facebook page and our YouTube channel. Go back and watch it. We said some really, really important things. And it's a good way to connect with what is going on in Nigeria today. Today, we are focusing our conversation on what the best practices and ways to communicate the dire situation regarding the persecution and injustices going on in Nigeria to the international community. And I cannot wait, y'all. I'm so excited. I can't wait to introduce you to our guests. So, before we go on, here are a few announcements for today. Our first announcement, we've been talking about this, is the 7 days of prayer for Leah Sharibu. Now, this is beginning on the 15th to the 19th with the tag Speak Up for Leah. This is 7 days where you can engage with us on social media. For most of the 7 days, it's nothing more than just a 5-minute pause to pray with us on social media or on whatever platforms, to agree together to pray against persecution in Nigeria, particularly for those who have been abducted. Now, I know I'm very much aware that not all of our audience are Christians or praying people. And I just want to encourage you to still participate. You might be a Christian, you can pray. You might be a Muslim, you can pray. But some of you might be like, I don't know. You can just send good vibes. Okay, join us in a time of prayer, a time of silence, a time of sending good vibes and sending good wishes towards these families that are suffering in the persecution. We'll be praying every day from the 13th to the 19th. Now, on the 19th, we're going to have an event called 3 Hours for 3 Years. Leah Sharibu has been has been abducted for 3 years, separated from her family for 3 years. We're going to take 3 hours to discuss her situation, 3 hours to pray, 3 hours to engage in the conversation. And I'll be here. I'll be waiting on you and we'll love you to participate. So we'll like you to, this is what you can do, okay? One, those of you who follow us on social media, you see that we are sending out a lot of this yellow and white and green posters. Share with the tag Speak Up or Speak Up for Leah. Hashtag Speak Up for Leah. Let's share this. Let's get as many people into the conversation as possible. Y'all, there's so much that you can do without even breaking a sweat, without leaving your house. I can't emphasize enough how much we want you to share this. So do this for the sake of Leah Sharibu. What can you do today for Leah, who is in captivity? Today, you can share one or more of our posters and invite people to join you. These two events are absolutely going to be, we have guests, several guests coming on. Off the top of my head, I know in Nigeria, we have Solomon Lange, we have, I can't even read it, but you all see it on the screen. We have Benjamin Watson here in the US. We have different people from our government. We have several people joining us for this conversation. It's not going to be, and I just want to answer the question for people who are like, oh, I don't think I have 3 hours to sit down. First of all, Leah has been gone 3 years. Can you give 3 hours? But I understand people have schedules, right? What if you give a half hour? What if you give an hour? What if you give 2 hours? What if you tag some friends and say, I'll watch the first half hour, you watch, and 6 of you watch the 3 hours in half-hour segments? Let's get creative about this and let's engage the conversation. 3 hours for 3 years, advocating for Leah Sharibu. So those are our announcements for today. I'm going to go into the news of the week quickly. Here is the news for the week. Our first news of the week today comes from an interview from Premium Times Nigeria. In an interview with BBC Pidgin, the Nobel Prize winner Wole Soyinka condemned the complacency of Nigerian President Buhari against the illegal activities of militant herdsmen across Nigeria. According to Soyinka, we are here not just to live, but to live in dignity. Right now, our dignity is being rubbished. I'm going to read that quote again. And I quote, we are here not just to live, but to live in dignity. And right now, our dignity is being rubbished. In this interview, Mr. Soyinka said that the first solution to the recurring menace for the country is for President Buhari to address the nation on the level of insecurity and the way forward. Again, we received this news from Premium Times in Nigeria. And from punchng.com, we received a report that Femi Falana, a senior advocate of Nigeria, has asked Nigerians to hold the government responsible for killings by herdsmen in the country. According to Falana, the government is responsible for unlawful killings by herdsmen and other unknown perpetrators, which have not been adequately prevented, investigated, or prosecuted by the authorities. He is saying that the killings have not been adequately prevented, investigated, or prosecuted by the authorities. In his argument, he explained that the government has the responsibility to probe the killings and fish out the perpetrators. For more news on this and more, you can go to punchng.com. You can also learn more about the same story from a different perspective on guardianng.com. Guardian.ng. All right, that's our news for today. For those of you who are interested in more news from Nigeria, please go to iconhelp.org, subscribe to receive our weekly news updates on the state of the terrorist and militant activities in Nigeria. It's very easy, really. You just go to iconhelp.org, click subscribe, put in your email, and you will receive a weekly email from us. Also, you can just follow us on Facebook and get some updates. We are constantly posting news items as we receive them. You can get your news updates through that as well. Okay. I am excited to introduce our guest for today. And I'm just going to go through, I had this long bio written about him. And he's like, you don't need all that, because he's a humble person, but he's done amazing things. Our guest today is Dr. Richard Ikiebe. He's a scholar of contemporary media history and leadership at the School of Media and Communications of the Pan Atlantic University in Lagos, Nigeria. In addition to these roles, he is a doctoral researcher at the University of Westminster in London, UK. He's an accomplished media and management consultant and is the chairman of the board of Business Day newspapers. He's a journalist, he's a teacher. He also serves as in the leadership of PSG Nigeria. And PSG Nigeria is the International Organization for Peace Building and Social Justice. It's a non-governmental organization which exists to promote peace building and social justice in Nigeria, with programs geared towards transformative and sustainable change. This change is achieved by advocating for evidence-based peace-building legislation and policies. PSG is committed to growing coalitions and alliances among like-minded groups and organizations, and one of such groups is ICON. We've had the privilege of working hand in hand with PSG Nigeria, and it's such a joy and a privilege to welcome Dr. Richard Ikiebe to the studio. Welcome, Dr. Richard. It's a joy to have you here.
Thank you very much. It's a delight to be with you. And thank you for all the good work that you are doing. I watched your podcast last week and with Dr. Gloria Poldo. So I'm very, very delighted to be here.
Thank you. I'm excited to have this conversation because I think you will be able to bring an insight that is a different perspective from what we've been seeing. So we know that you're a communicator, a teacher, a scholar, an author, and then an advocate for social justice. Where did that come from? How did that crossover? How did you get involved from, being a teacher from the classroom and from, journalism into this world of advocacy?
Well, there is really no crossover involved, because once you are a journalist, most of the time you are a person of conscience. You are asking yourself, this is what is and why, and you're asking, this is what could be and why not. As a journalist, you are always a commentator on social issues, either through the type of things you are doing now, broadcasting. So advocacy really is not very far away, because you are always looking at issues and asking yourself questions that can improve the situation of the community where you reside. So for me, there is really no crossover. It's the same thing. If you are a journalist and you are conscientious, you will speak for the underprivileged.
Yeah. Wow.
That is what the Bible asks us to do. It says that we should do it to the least of these.
Yeah.
Whether they are voiceless, we should become their voice. When they are in prison, we should visit them. When they are hungry, we should feed them. So there is no divide at all.
Wow. Thank you so much for that response. How did you get involved with the work of PSG UK? PSG Nigeria. What's the story of how that started, and what's the focus right now of the work of PSG Nigeria?
Well, the work of PSG Nigeria and PSG UK and ICON, they are all linked. And I am pleased to say that I am that link, because I came in contact with Stephen Enada several years ago, about 10, 15 years ago. And we had some things that we were doing together. And so when we crossed paths again in 2017, there was a need to increase the footprint of what ICON was doing, and make it obvious in Nigeria.
Yeah.
So we established the PSG Nigeria almost as an extension of the work that Icon was doing in the US.
Wow.
And that was also, therefore, instrumental to bringing about the work of PSJ UK,
Hmm.
and got the team there, and visited with them several times trying to get them
Hmm.
off the ground. And Pastor Ayo is doing a fantastic job there now.
Yes.
So yeah, the three are sister organizations,
Yeah.
and Kyle, Stephen, myself, Ayo, and several others. We're strictly really the same team. It's just that we are under different governance
Hmm.
regime, because the whatever establishes an icon in the US or a PSJ in the UK, the laws, the regulations are different from whatever we can put
Yeah.
together in Nigeria. So they all run under different, but under different governing canopies. But essentially, the spirit is the same.
Wow. So, how would you say the work of PSJ UK? What will you say is the primary work that you're doing right of PSJ Nigeria? How is that different from what is happening in the UK and in the US? Because you're in Nigeria where all of the drama is happening. So, how is that work? Will you say it's harder to be in the face or in the eye of the storm, or it's just a different place?
It probably would sound more like a different place, because every advocacy work is difficult.
Hmm.
It's difficult because usually you don't have uh, funds.
Yeah.
So you basically, the problems are the same. People don't
Hmm.
pay attention early
Hmm.
until you are screaming your voices off,
Mhm.
because they have other concern. So essentially, but the different cultures and governing regimes in the countries are different. I think that's
Yeah.
where we
Okay.
have differences.
Okay.
But the spirit is the same everywhere.
Mm. Yeah, that's awesome. You raised a very important topic about people are not willing to listen to advocacy or the voice screaming. Look at what's happening in Nigeria, and that's something we've struggled with. The media arm here of Icon in the U.S. How would you describe? What would you describe is the best way to communicate this work of advocacy and the persecution and terrorism going on in Nigeria to the rest of the world? Because we're at a place where they're like, oh, just say happy things. Once you start sharing serious things, people just kind of close off and walk away. And these are very highly important topics that we have to communicate. We have to get a large hearing on social media. We want to get the story of Leah Sharibu to the highest, communication platform. What would you advise, what in your opinion is the best way to communicate our burdens to the world?
Well, I think the first thing is to be consistent,
Hmm.
um, and consistent, persistent, and truthful. Um, because if you strike it once, it's
Hmm.
not likely to catch any fire.
Hmm.
Uh, People are generally distracted. They are distracted by the banal information they receive on their phones all the
Hmm.
time,
Hmm.
that don't add value to their lives, but um, they are engaged in them nonetheless.
Hmm.
Or they have worries, other worries of life, that
Hmm.
don't allow them to pay attention to what you are saying.
Yeah.
So you need to be persistent, and you also need to be consistent.
Hmm.
Uh, and the last thing, you need to be truthful, uh, which is why we put together the book on silent slaughter.
Hmm.
You need to have verifiable facts.
Yeah.
Somebody sent me an article this morning, and I wrote back to him can you please verify the authorship
Yeah.
of this?
Hmm.
Because that is what is that will help me to know whether to believe or whether it's just a propaganda stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
And once people catch you telling a lie or sending out something that is not true or excessively emotional, that is not tied to some grounded facts, verifiable facts,
Yeah.
then they write you off, and it's
Hmm.
always very difficult to come back.
Hmm. That's powerful. Persistent, consistent, and truthful. Will you say, and this is just a little tag on question, because I'm thinking about people who are saying, well, I'm sharing this on my personal social media. Everything else, I get 100 likes and this gets 2 likes. That was my position before I even started volunteering with helping out with Icon. Is, you share something else and everybody likes it, and you share this. Will you say this kind of consistency should not just happen for broadcast platforms, but for everybody who is willing to share something so for social justice, for the purpose of social justice?
Yeah, because people's lives are involved. Um, you probably shouldn't worry too much whether people like it or not,
Yeah.
because again, we live in a um, very shallow um, age where people want to be made happy,
Yeah.
and nobody is really that interested in so-called bad news.
Hmm.
So if they get something that is not going to make them laugh out loud,
Yeah.
um, they basically shun it or ignore it. That is where we need to be persistent,
Hmm.
because we have to just keep sending those stories until one day they wake up and say, this is the truth.
Yeah.
Suddenly, in the southwest part of Nigeria, people have started to feel what people in the middle belt and in the
Yeah.
northeast have been feeling all along.
Hmm.
And they are waking up and they say, oh, but you told us this, 5 years ago, you told us this
Hmm.
last year. I say, yes, but you were not listening. Now you are paying
Yes.
attention. So it's important for you to be persistent and be
Yeah.
consistent.
Yeah.
And when the truth finally meets up with, when the people finally agree to listen, they will be shocked at how inattentive they have been all along.
Yeah. Yeah, that's absolutely true, because my next question was, I was going to shift gears and say, with this news of several scholars and political leaders calling for the government to respond, and for me, I felt a certain kind of way, because as somebody who's grown up in the middle belt, I grew up in Jos, I'm like, this thing has been happening since 2000. Where have you all been? And you're suddenly coming out now to call on the government to help. Where have you all been all this while? And I was going to ask you, what's your take on that? Will you say it's the persistency that led to this, or is it because some of the terrorist activities moving more south, and some of the militant herdsmen are beginning to do some more killings in the south? Is this what's bringing the awareness, or just consistency and holding our ground in speaking the truth of what's happening? So what's your take on this new hurrah, let's let the government act?
Well, I think it's a bit of both.
Hmm.
But you see, you don't stop talking, because even though they hadn't paid attention all along, you have amassed a huge historical record,
Yeah.
so that they can now point to the fact that it has been happening in other places
Yeah.
and it has been happening all along.
Yeah.
So yes, it's because it is now touching them that they are responding. But then the fact that they are now touched also now provides them with, oh, what was it that Icon or PSG was telling me last week, last year, 2 years ago that I
Yeah.
didn't pay attention to? They
Hmm.
have access, and then they can see that there is a grand plan,
Yeah.
and that this whole thing is not limited. And the people who are not feeling the heat yet, sooner or later they will feel the heat.
Yeah.
And so what then happens is that the people who are feeling the heat now becomes the new advocates.
Yeah.
They can then run and say, guys, I was sharing this thing last year, I didn't pay
Hmm.
attention, now it's at our
Hmm.
doorsteps,
Yeah.
please wake up because it will still be your turn, you know. So there is always a need for us to be persistent.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much. This question has come, everybody's saying this is the role of the government. Do you think this fight against the persecution and terrorism and lack of regard for human dignity is strictly the role of the government? And what role do we have to play to influence the government to do their job?
Well, it's a role for government because it's a constitutional role. Government
Hmm.
is there to protect lives and property.
Hmm.
So it's a role for government, but it's also a role for each of us as individuals. I remember in the early days when I got involved in this, people used to say to me, oh, you are, even northern people will say to me, oh, you are a southerner, what's your business in this? I said,
Hmm.
this is our country, and when one part is bleeding, the whole country is bleeding.
Yeah.
And there is a role for individuals. Usually, government does not want to be discomfitured, or to be made to feel uncomfortable, or to
Hmm.
be made to feel that it's not doing its job.
Hmm.
Uh, but our point really is not to blame government or say, government, you are not doing your job. Our point is to call attention to what is going on
Hmm.
and hope that government will do something.
Hmm.
And that's a duty for every citizen. We cannot we cannot sit back and say, well, because it's not happening in my backyard,
Yeah.
because it's not affecting my people, therefore it's not relevant.
Hmm.
I think that's the mistake that a lot of us make.
Hmm. Will you say that's a relevant advice to people in the international community whom Nigeria is not their country? Can the average person, like somebody listening to us in the US, in the UK, raise attention to what's happening and be an influence to the Nigerian government as well?
Certainly, certainly. But it's a mistake for anybody. The world has become so small.
Hmm.
Um, uh, in terms of interactions and
Hmm.
international relations,
Hmm.
that no one country is isolated.
Yeah.
So nobody can say, "Oh, it's an African problem."
Yeah.
It's an African problem, yes, but it's also a European problem
Hmm.
because they participated in creating the problem as
Hmm.
colonialists.
Yeah.
But beyond history is the fact that they depend a lot on international trade
Yep.
and international commerce. So if 200 people in Nigeria, 200 million people in Nigeria who used to buy their goods go to war and are not able to buy again, that's a loss for European economy.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, recently it's been brought to light that a lot of Nigerian achievers are in the US. They are contributing to the economy of the US.
Hmm.
If their brothers and sisters here are being killed and there is a war and destabilization here, there is likely to be an influx of migrants.
Hmm.
So it's not a it's not it's a sky fall issues. When the
Yeah.
sky falls, it's everybody's problem.
Yes, sir.
So nobody can say, oh no, it's not my issue, it's
Mm.
not my issue. And particularly to the uh, Christian communities
Mm-hmm.
in Europe and America,
Yeah.
they must take an interest in what is going on in Nigeria.
Mm.
And the Islamic communities too, the Muslim
Mm-hmm.
communities,
Mm-hmm.
because what the Boko Haram and what the ISIS and what the headsmen are doing are giving a very poor image, a very bad name to
Yeah.
Islam.
Yeah.
So they must take an interest in what's going on.
Yeah. That's so good. I feel like we just scratched the surface. I'm gonna beg my producers for a part two of this conversation because I feel like there's still so much to be said, but we've run out of time. Do you have any last words of advice, any last thoughts for our audience who might be watching?
Well, the hope is that a lot more. I don't even want to talk to the large international community yet. I want to talk to the Nigerians in diaspora
Hmm.
uh, to take an interest in what is happening in their nation and do something. Join ICON, join PSJ UK to demand that their various governments in the UK and in the United States push the Nigerian government to do the right thing.
Hmm.
India was eventually saved by its diaspora. A lot of people who migrated to the US in the
Hmm.
60s and in the 50s and in the 70s helped to redeem India from its problem.
Hmm.
The same thing from the UK. The same thing you can say about the Jews in the diasporan Jews.
Yeah. Yeah.
The same thing you can say about the diasporan Arabs. All of them are contributing to make sure their homelands are secured and they have a democracy. So I think we really should focus on the Nigerians who live in the US to take an interest in what is going on here and not just talk about it on WhatsApp and get
Hmm.
angry with each other, but to actually speak to their congressmen, their senators, their links, their contacts to put pressure on the Nigerian government to do the right thing.
Thank you so much, Dr. Richard Ikiebe, for your presence, for your wise words. I'm believing that we will have you back on this podcast. But thank you for giving us your time today. We hope to see more of you soon.
Thank you very much, Priscilla. It has been very good talking with you. Thank you. God bless you.
God bless you. Have a blessed day. And thank you all for joining us for this other episode. Oh my goodness, so many nuggets, so many lessons. I just want to pull a few. Be persistent, be consistent, be truthful. One of those places where you can get the truth about what's happening in Nigeria is at iconhelp.org. Dr. Richard mentioned the book Silent Slaughter. You can download it free on our website. We want to make sure that you have access to the right information regarding what's happening in Nigeria. We also have a calendar on our website that gives you relevant information daily on how many people were abducted today, how many kidnappings happened on that day. You can go back and look and see what's happening in Nigeria. Now, a call to action. Y'all know me. I've been saying these things, y'all, for a long time. We need to get the word out there. And what's the word? Persistence. I know some of you have shared this and you're like, it didn't get any traction, so I'm not sharing it again. Let's be persistent. Let's be consistent. Share the posters of our 7 days of prayer. Share the posters of our 3 years, 3 hours for 3 years. We want to get as many people involved. This is one way to do it. I have a suggestion for you. So let's talk. organize a watch party. Get 3 or more friends. I think 3 is the significant number. 3 or more friends gather together to watch this 3 hours. You can watch it in a relay, like I mentioned before, where one person watches the first half hour, another person watches, and you sit down and talk about the part you watched. Or you can get together, get some popcorn safely, obviously, with people that are within your, COVID pod. Get some popcorn, or you can do it together online. You watch it and have a conversation on Zoom. Let's get parties together and get the conversation started. If you have a small group at your church, this is a way to start the conversation. If you need material and you need us to send you some of the materials we have, so you have physical things for your party, let us know. Okay? We want to support you in this way. Let's get the word out there. Leah has been in captivity for 3 years. How can we show up for her? When she hears about what happened on the third year of her captivity, will she be proud to say, people stood up for me? People stood out for me. Will she be able to look you in the eye and say, thank you? Thank you for not being silent. This is the season to speak up for Leah. So we're going to be starting our broadcast on the 13th, which is soon. And there'll be prayer every day. But on the 19th, there's going to be 3 hours for 3 years. And I'll be here. I'll be your host, walking you through those 3 hours. Thank you all for joining us. We're so excited that some of you have been persistently watching this broadcast every single week. Thank you. Thank you for sharing it. Thank you for being involved. We see you. We appreciate you. Share this. Follow us on Facebook at Icon Facebook as at Icon Help, on Twitter at Icon Help, on Instagram at Stand with Nigeria. Stand with Nigeria. And we're going to be we're just going to be sending out all these posters because we want to give you a variety of things to send out to your friends to share. If you have any questions, IM us on Instagram or send us an email. We really want to connect with you. Thank you all so much. We appreciate our producers and everybody backstage. Thank you all for being part of Hear Their Voices, HTV, the Icon Podcast. Again, my name is Priscilla Ozodo Acevedo. Have a wonderful, blessed week.